and welcome to the video walkthrough for the Beverly Postcard. When you get the link, you'll be directed to a page that looks like this. Hit Use Template, and that will bring this into your own Canva account. Once you're here, head over to File and make a copy, and that will just ensure that you always have the master file available in case you take a few left turns and you make a few mistakes and you can't remember what the original looked like. You'll have that to fall back on. Once you've done that, you can head over to Uploads, upload an image or video, and then locate your listing photos and upload them into Canva. And once you've done that, you're ready to just drag and drop and get this postcard out. So let's talk about how we would adjust some of these things. So if you want to just use the drag and drop method, you just choose a photo that works for you and your listing, you drag it over to the box and it will pop into place. If you're not happy with the orientation in the box, you just click it twice and that will open up the photo editor, and in this you can rearrange the positioning of your photo in the box until you're satisfied. Now obviously some photos will be darker than others, and this one is quite dark, and this dark font no longer works. So I'm going to highlight the listed and change that to white. I can even change it to gold, and that looks just as good. If you want to change any of these colors, just make sure that you highlight any box or any color that you see, and then you can head over to the color palette and just change it to either your brand colors or a color that more closely matches the listing tones. So if you know your brand color, you're going to head over to this color palette and then put in the hex code here. Same goes for font. You can highlight the font, change the color, head over here, or you can change the font itself by clicking this box here and choosing a font that you like or your brand font. You can search for it in this box here. You can change anything you want. We've created them so that they're easy drag and drop, but if you want more photos, you could do that by just dragging this over here. I would just copy this and paste it, bring it over to the side, get a little bit smaller so that we can see Beverly. And now we've covered this up, so I'm going to right click and send it backward until I can see everything. And now what I'm going to do is reposition this in the box again so that it looks great, and then add my second photo. My second photo is going to be this one, let's say. And that looks fantastic. So you're not limited to just one photo here. It can really easily be changed to fit your needs, and you can add as many or as little photos as you like. Bring this up, add a photo under here, bring this up, bring this down maybe, add a photo up here. It's completely up to you. For the purpose of this tutorial, we're going to leave it with just 2. Here's where we've put the URL for the listing. If you don't have one, that's fine. You can put your own URL or your brokerage URL, or you could just put a call to action here, or you could put something about the property here, like chic living. This is where we've added just enough of a teaser for the property to get them enticed and interested in calling you. And we've also included this icon, which is provided by Canva. So what you can do is you can change the color of this quite easily. You do have an icon outside of Canva as well in your zip folder. So if you need to create this outside of Canva, you have that available to you as well. Another thing to note is that you can use this for just sold, just listed, open house. It works for everything, so you can play around with that as well, or use the same layout for all of your listing needs. If you need to adjust the sizing of the just listed, so if you have open house or just sold and you need to adjust that, remember that you have a few options. You can either change the font size itself, so you can bring this down to, let's say, a 56, which adjusts that, or you can play around with the letter spacing, which what it does is it adjusts the spacing in between each individual letter. So you can either make it larger or smaller. And those are just a few tricks to make sure that everything fits nicely. Now this, we've created the front of the card, and you do have a few options here. So if you don't have a headshot that looks like this with a beautiful background, blurred background, instead you might have one that looks similar to this one. This is from our bokeh template. So I would just pop that in. and then double click and make sure she's in the box the way that you like it. And then I'll just move it around, play around with it a little bit until it looks good. I like it right there actually. And then I'm going to move the name over here. Now the same rules apply. You might not have a nice neat name that's just perfectly short like this one. You might have a longer name. In that case, I would suggest you reduce the font size to something around 48, even smaller if you need to, and then adjust the spacing. You can always bring things closer or farther away. And then you have all this space to work with, so you really don't need to worry if you have a longer name. If you do have a longer name, let's just see what that would look like. Okay, so in that case, make sure that that's white, and then bring it up here, and then go to the spacing and make sure the line height, so that's the spacing in between the words, is like that. And then bring sales representative underneath it, and then I'm just going to play around with where it looks best, and I think it looks best a little bit further down, and that looks fantastic. So if you do have a headshot that doesn't have a background, you can do this very easily and it looks fantastic. Or if you do have a background, like let's say white or a solid color background, and you want to have it removed, there are many options. If you have the Pro option of Canva, you can do it right here in Canva under Effects and Background Remover. But if you don't have the Pro version, we do have a tutorial available in the tutorial section, 4thstreetcreative.com/tutorials, that will show you a free way you can do this online. And then you just bring that image into Canva and it will look like this without a background. If you do have a background, but it's not as neat as this one, let me just show you another example. Bring that into the box, just position it where it looks nice right there, and then you do the same thing. You play around with it until it works. So I would do something like that, and that looks fantastic. And perfect. So it really does work with any kind of background that you have. You just need to play around. You might have to play around with it a little bit more than just dragging and dropping if you don't have one similar to this, where it's all pretty much, there's perfect negative space here to just put your name. The same goes for your logo. The white version of your logo might not work, so just bring in whatever version does work. And you can always change the sizing of this info. Again, this is really convenient that it's so short, so if you do have longer information, you can always play with the letter spacing to make sure that it all fits. So one thing I would recommend is not going below 10 when you're putting your information on a printable piece of marketing, because anything under 10 is quite difficult to read. You also want to make sure that this is quite bold. So if you are using smaller fonts like 10 point, then you would want to go over here, review it, and maybe choose a heavier font weight like that to make sure that when it's printed, you just remove the bold. When it's printed, it's a little bit thicker and easier to read. So once you're happy with the way that this looks, you can head over to File and Show Print Bleed, and just make sure that everything is outside of the dotted line. It bleeds outside of the dotted line because this is where the printer will be cutting your document. So you want to make sure that everything is outside of that dotted line. So for example, if it looked like this, you would want to draw it out to here so that we don't have any awkward white spaces. And before we save this file, we're going to just show you how to use the optional icons. So these optional icons were provided. You have them in blue, gold, and white. And what you do is you find that folder. It's located in your zip folder. You unzip that and it's under icons. And when you bring them into Canva, they'll look like this. You just click on them once and then resize, and you can put them anywhere in your document. If you don't want it on this page, probably makes more sense on this page. You just resize them. And then you hit T on your keyboard to bring up a text box. Put in the number of bedrooms. I'm going to make sure that this is a regular one. And then slip it in right next here. And because I want the exact same look for the number of baths, I'm going to right-click on my mouse, copy, right-click, paste, and then bring it here. And now we've shown people how many beds and baths with these cute little icons. If you don't want them, they're optional, so just don't put them into your design. And when you are ready, when you're happy with the way everything looks, head over to download and make sure that PDF print is selected and crop marks and bleed for your printer. Download that. And when you open it up, it'll look like this. Just take a quick look at it to make sure that the crop marks all look right and that none of your text is too close to the crop marks. If they are, then you run the risk of having them cut off in print. When they're cutting the document itself. So just make sure that everything's nice and neat. And if it's ready to go, you send that off to your printer. And that's it. I hope this was helpful. And if you need any more help, please feel free to head over to 4thstreetcreative.com/tutorials for our large resource library. Happy designing!